Hi friends, and welcome to another episode of the Simple Knit podcast. My name is Elina and this is my little corner of the internet where I hang out with you and share with you all of the things that I've been making recently. So if that sounds like something fun to you, because it's very fun to me, pour yourself a drink, grab your craft, and let's have a chit chat. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Simple Knit Co. And I hope you're all doing really well. It's a gross, overcast, chilly Sunday here in Brisbane. So kind of perfect hanging out at home, drinking tea, knitting weather. So let's get started, I guess. My first finished object is what I'm wearing today. So this was a work in progress last time I saw you, I think. I don't remember. But this is the Metamorphic Jumper by Andrea Mowry. I've knit it in Bendigo Woolen Mills. They're two of their 8-ply bases. So this dark grey colour is the classic 8-ply in the colour charcoal, and the contrast colour, so the colour gradient that you're seeing is their prism base in the colourway Outback, which is sadly currently out of stock, but hopefully they get more in because it's really, really lovely. And when I got these at the mill shop in Bendigo, and I think these were literally the only two skeins I saw in the mill shop on that day. Wow, did you just hear my stomach? I did. I'm not even hungry, I just ate lunch. But yes, Metamorphic. This was an absolute blast. I love it so much. I knit the 4th size, basically exactly as per the pattern instructions. I think I added a little bit of length to the body, and I did add like a centimetre or 2 to the sleeves to make them nice and long. Sorry, that was my slippers banging on the ground and the couch creaking. I'll stop apologizing for extraneous noise, but I'll get up and just so you can see slightly more full picture of the jumper. Oh, she's a professional, isn't she? So it's really cute. It's a circular yoke jumper with this cool slip stitch detail that runs down the top of the sleeves and the front and the back. You didn't really see that, but whatever. So yeah, it comes kind of to a good place over the top of my jeans. It's, and I think I did make it a little bit longer than it is in the pattern. So no moving, no extra noise. There we go. I knit the 4th size, I think I said, and I used the recommended needle size. In the pattern instructions, Andrea Mowry does say if you're using a small circumference needle for the sleeves, which I did, I used like a 30 centimetre circular needle, to go up a needle size because people's gauge is typically tighter with a smaller circumference needle. That's not something I've ever noticed for myself, but it's also not something I've ever paid attention to. So I was like, whatever. But then when I went to knit the sleeves, I couldn't find the right size 30 centimetre needle. So I went up a needle size for the sleeves. And yeah, my gauge was pretty consistent when I had a little looky-loo. I haven't like specifically carefully measured it, but visually the gauge between the sleeves and the body is about the same. So one of the really cool things about using the colour changing yarn from Bendigo for this style of garment is that they come in massive 200 gram balls. So for the body, this was all from the one ball. So there's no like breaks. You don't have to kind of yarn manage to get a consistent colour flow situation. So you're not trying to blend one skein into the other. I actually wrote down how much of the balls I used because I was just like having a moment in a little notebook. So for the body of the jumper, I used about 135 grams of a 200 gram ball. And then for the sleeves, when I then looked at my second skein to see kind of where I would join the two balls together, I realized that the two balls of Outback I hadn't looked that closely, and they had kind of a similar color on the outside of the ball. So I was like, oh, cool. They were really different, really, really different. The first skein, the one that I used from the body, definitely had way more of like a rainbow effect. And as you can see, the one that I used for the sleeves kind of doesn't have the same, I guess, extremes of color. It doesn't have that super green or the super dark red. It's a little bit more muted. So what I did was with the second ball, I found, but that ball within itself had like a consistent color sequence that it went through. So I found a point where I separated from the sleeves was around this purple section. So I just found a section that was like a similar purpley color and just started from there. Then I wound off more of the ball and like at about the same point, started at the same point. So you have the same kind of relatively matchy sleeves, which is pretty cool because you can't always do that with this style of yarn. You can't always get, depending on how much yarn you have and how consistent the skeins and dye lots are, you can't always get that effect. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, there is one other design feature. So this like slip stitch detail is meant to be continued down the side and under the sleeve. So you can kind of see there's a bit of a seam line down under the sleeve, which is where, because this is a reverse stockinette garment, so you knit it inside out, so you just knit on the knit side and then turn it inside out. So you do get a little bit of a seam where you change color. So for the body, that's done at the back of the jumper and that's hidden by the slip stitch. There is supposed to also be the slip stitch detail down the side and under the sleeve. I just straight up didn't read the pattern and didn't do it on the side and didn't realize until I was like at the ribbing and I wasn't going to rip back and do it again. I put a stitch marker on the side and I was like, oh, why is there a stitch marker here? You don't do anything. Yeah, if I would have read the sentence slightly more slowly, I would have realized that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And so you do get a little bit of a seam where the color changes and where the decrease is. That's supposed to be hidden by another one of these slip stitches, but it's like on the bottom of my arms. Unless you are like, I don't know, the only example I can think of is a quokka looking up at me, which is not the only time that someone would be standing down looking upwards at you. But for some reason, that's the only example I can think of. But it's clearly not something that really bothers me, not obvious, doesn't affect the vibe of the garment. So yeah, I love it. I knit it in maybe like 4 weeks or something. Get knit up really fast because it's basically just straight stockinette with a slip stitch every so often, which makes it really, really easy to do. And I highly recommend. It's really cute. If I were to change one thing, it's something that I should do for every circular yoke garment. If you have a fuller bust, you do end up with like a lot of excess fabric at the back when you have the same amount of stitches in the front and the back. So one little hack that you can do if you do have a fuller bust and you find you get like gapey fabric at the back of your garment is when you split for the sleeves, like split further back. So there's more stitches on the front of your garment than the back, so that then the fabric is distributed more similarly to how your body is distributed. I didn't bother to do that because I knew it was going to be kind of a relaxed fit and wasn't really, to be honest, didn't really feel like thinking that much. But I think next time I do an Andrea Mowry pattern, because she quite often does these circular yokes, I will do that because I think that would, especially if it was a slightly more fitted garment, really like elevate it. And the other thing is always, it never looks like this on other people, but I always find that her circular yokes do kind of tend a little bit more boat necky than I would prefer. Like most people, they seem to be more like, I don't know, maybe I have some like the differently distributed body, but the necklines always, even though this has like short rows and everything, it kind of goes a bit more boat necky than round, which is just, an observation. Oh, and I just remembered I forgot a finished object. So sit tight, I'll be back. So I tidied up my house yesterday, which shouldn't be anything noteworthy, but I put this finished object away. So that's why it was when I was talking about this yarn that I remembered this finished object. So the 65 grams of the ball that I had left from knitting the body of the jumper, I used that leftover 65 grams to make a Roku hat. This is going to be a birthday gift for a friend who will not bother to watch this podcast, so not really bothered. Roku by Olga Baraya-Kefelian is my favorite 1x1 rib pattern. It's written for a DK weight yarn, I believe, but something that's coming up later in this podcast is going to show you why I'm really hesitant to say that. But I've knit this everything from, it has like 3 sizes, I think, and I've knit everything from 8 ply to 12 ply with this pattern, just picking a different needle size and yarn. I love the way the decreases are. I think it's really cute. I didn't go down a needle size for my tubular cast on, so it is a little bit flary, but who cares? And the hat and the pom-pom together is every scrap of those 65 grams of yarn that I had left. I'm not sure how the body measurement of the hat lines up to the pattern, because I just kind of looked at how many rows I was getting out of a color section and then kind of guessed where I should start the decreases. Because my intention was not to do a pom-pom, was to use all the yarn up, but I'm hate playing yarn chicken. So I did end up with a little bit too much left over. So I made a little pom-pom that's a bit wobbly. Sorry, someone just walked past. I'm such a nosy neighbor. Yeah, okay. The pom-pom is currently just tied on with a bow, which is why it's a little bit like flaccid. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my friend who I'm making this for, theoretically, if they prefer a hat with or without a pom-pom. And then if they do want a pom-pom, I will sew it on properly, because like nothing worse than a wobbly pom-pom. I mean, there are things that are worse than that, but it's nothing more annoying to me than like a pom-pom that does that. So yeah, just a cute, quick way to use up your yarn bits. So, and this is the largest size, I didn't say that. So I knit it on the recommended needles, I believe. And this is the largest stitch count. So yeah, if you have like 60, 70 grams of yarn left, you can defo get a cute ribbed hat out of it. I'm really happy. I think it's so pretty, and you see that like full color gradient of this beautiful Outback colorway in the hat. I'm really stoked. I think it's really pretty. So yes, that was the finished object I forgot. I have one other finished object that I think I'd finished one of these socks last time. So they're a pair of DK weight socks. This is the ID colorway self-striping by Half Baked Hand Dyed. It's her DK weight sock base, and this is the like extra long striped version, so it makes like these cool color blocked sockies. I have a bit of yarn left over. I didn't really know how far 100 grams of 8 ply went, because I've never made 8 ply socks before. So I just kind of made these slightly shorter ones, and I'm very glad I'm showing them to you today, because it is still really cold overnight here. Well, really cold is in air quotes. I do live in the subtropics, but it's still cold overnight. So I'm looking forward to tonight wearing these as some little bed sockies. Nothing really much to say. I cast on, I'm having to remember now. Oh, I think I used 3.25 millimeter needles. I'll link my Ravelry project page below that I believe I put details on, but I also may not have. So we're in this together. Oh, bye. I've got, so that there's a little bit more light, I have usually there's a blind. Our doors are like glass, but there's like a blind. and I've got the blind up, which I don't normally do. So normally when I'm sitting on the couch with the door closed, I can't see everything that happens outside, but at the moment I can. So that's why I keep getting distracted. Yes, sock. 44 stitches, 2x2 rib, heel flap and gusset. I think I just did like a basic round toe. I also had no idea how long the toe decreases were going to take. I think I went down until I had like 8 stitches on each needle and then did a Kitchener stitch. Something like that. It's just a sock. Pick your favorite sock tutorial. But they're really cozy. I'm not sure, maybe if you did like things that you need thick socks for, these would be good to wear in shoes. I probably personally would not wear them in shoes. I think if I did another pair of 8-ply socks, I would probably go down a needle size and up a few more stitches. I just feel like the gauge could be a little bit denser, and I like a very, very dense sock gauge. But yeah, bed socks, super cute, really fun. What can you say? They knit up so fast. I feel like I barely worked on them and they were done, which is, I guess, good, but annoying because then you have to come up with another handbag project, because these socks and like little things are just, if it's like a handbag carry around project, I really don't work on them unless I'm carrying them around. So that's all my finished objects. I have 4 works in progress to share with you, and 0 of them were on the needles last time I spoke to you. So let's start with this one. So after I went to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show in July, I was like, I really don't need to buy any more yarn for approximately 12 months, because I definitely have like outgrown my yarn storage. Well, I need to reorganize. If I had an appropriately organized yarn storage system, I would be fine, but I don't, because I'm chaos. And just like I'm looking, because it's like a lot of it's like right here on my floor. In bags, sealed, we're fine. But yeah, I had said when I got home, I'm like, really cool, like had amazing purchases, stoked with everything I got, but I just want to work through it. I don't want to add to the pile. So what I then did, Mum and I went to the Spotlight, had a sale on, and I had earlier this year knit a baby blanket, and my mum was like, oh, I want to make that baby blanket that you made. So she bought yarn to do it, like in the base I bought was from Spotlight, and so then I decided in a different colorway to also make another blanket. My mum has already finished hers. The life of a retiree took her like 3 weeks, I think, and she's more of a crocheter than a knitter. So I'm really proud of her. She did a gorgeous job. But this is a great pattern with, I think, the worst pattern name in history. So this is a free pattern. It's called the Spiral Blanket of Awesome, which is a stupid name. I would say that to the face of the person who designed it, whose name I don't remember. I think it's a really dumb name. So I just call it the Spiral Blanket. And yeah, this is what I've got so far. I'm still on the first of 4 balls. I used a different colorway of this same base earlier this year to make a blanket for a friend's bub. It's the Abbey Road Freedom Cotton that you can get at Spotlight. And this colorway is called Tutti Frutti. So it's really cute, like yellow, orange, purple, pink, and green. Really cute and fun. I think this is just for me. As far as I know, no one is currently pregnant in my circles. And these are colors that I really like, so I don't necessarily feel the need to gift this to someone. But what I did for the last one, if you're wanting to, because as I said, it's a free pattern. I got a really good size, like over a newborn / over a pram sized blanket, using 4 skeins of the yarn. So I just continued the pattern for about 3 skeins worth, and then in the pattern there's instructions for like a ruffled border. So I did that, and that took not quite a whole skein of the yarn, but it is a pain in the butthole because you have to then bind off like 1400 stitches once you've finished all the increases for the ruffle. My mum, what she did was when she did about 3 skeins worth, she bound off at that point and then did like a scalloped crochet edge around the blanket, which also looked super duper cute. So yeah, cute little spiral blanket. This is just, I mean, it's very, very straightforward. It's basically just stockinette in the round. Really good brain off at home on the couch knitting. So yeah, I never thought I'd be a blanket person, but as my friend Belinda said, because I just saw she wrote this on my last video, like baby blankets are kind of a sleeper, super fun project. They don't sound like they're going to be super fun, but they're super fun. So like not so secret. Maybe it's just a surprise to me, but yeah, I'm a baby blanket person now, I guess. Or baby blanket for Elina person now. But I have my other, this isn't actually a continuing thought. I don't know why I said that like it was going to be a continuous thought. This is the project that I'm carrying around in my handbag. And also story time for why earlier in this podcast I was slightly unsure of the recommended yarn size for the Roku hat. So this is my other favorite. Why did I do air quotes? This is my other favorite hat pattern. So this is the Hipster Hat by Petite Knit. And this is some other yarn that I got at Bendigo. So this is the Biche Bouche Petite Lamb's Wool, which is a base I've wanted to try, a brand and a base I've wanted to try for a really long time. I kind of just wanted to feel it in person. And one of the stall holders at Bendigo had some, and I absolutely love this dark bottle green. I think it's called forest green. I'm not really sure. The ball band is somewhere. I'm just seeing if it's like on the table near you, but I don't think it is. I know it's here somewhere. Oh no, it's right here. I got it and put it with the project so I would know what I'm doing. So it's the Petite Lamb's Wool in the colorway dark green. So close. So yes, I'm knitting a Hipster Hat by Petite Knit. I will believe I have to issue a correction. In the past, I've definitely said this in person, but I believe I probably said it on the podcast as well. This is my favorite hat to knit, my favorite fingering weight hat. So it's a 2x2 rib. Love it. It's kind of really light. It makes up a hat that's quite compact because it's, you know, I think only takes, so this is a 50 gram skein of yarn, and I weighed one of my other Hipster hats that I made in Retrosaria Mondim actually, and that was 39 grams. So if you just have like a little bit of like 50 grams of fingering weight yarn, you can get a super cute hat that's really nice and compact. I love it. This hat when I'm traveling, I can just shove it in my pocket, shove it in my bag, and especially if you have a nice like non-superwash base, it's really great because if it starts raining, you can just pull a little hat over your head and it protects your hair and keeps you warm, but it's really compact. I was then looking at the pattern, and I love this pattern, but mine never quite looked like Petite Knit's looked. And I must have just seen like on the pattern page, it says like fingering weight yarn, or the yarn base that it used was a fingering weight. So I just went ahead. I then actually was like reading the pattern, like, I think because I just knit the Roku, I was looking at the stitch count. I'm like, this can't be right. This is fingering weight. Why is the stitch count so close to what I was using for the Roku hat? It's because it's for fingering weight yarn held double. Like no one told me, no one's corrected me, but I've been telling myself this is such a great fingering weight hat pattern, but I was wrong. But I'm ignoring that and still just knitting on the recommended needle size with fingering weight yarn. So it's not a super duper like dense gauge as it would be if you knit. And I guess for me in my situation, this is like a nice weight of hat. If I lived in Denmark like Petite Knit does, it would probably not be a very warm hat. So like I stand corrected. Don't ever listen to me, just read what the designer says. but I just had this like existential crisis the other night that because I joke on this podcast that I don't read patterns properly. But that's like a new low or high for me. But yeah, I'm really happy with how my little handbag knitting hat is coming along. I love this color. Green is my favorite color. And I think this will be super duper cute for me to wear next winter. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm knitting a hipster hat in this beautiful green yarn. So, which one will I talk about next? Let's go for this one. So, this is some more yarn that I bought at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show. And this is a yarn that I've wanted to buy for, that I've wanted to buy for a really long time, and specifically have wanted to buy to make this project for a really long time. So let me show you the yarn first. So it is called Eva, and it's a collaboration between Tarndie Polworth Yarn Farm, the one with the hot farmers, and Great Ocean Road Woolen Mill. So this is an undyed colorway, and it is a blend of, just want to get it right, 80% Polworth wool and 20% Surrey alpaca. And it's in this really beautiful, like warm, neutral, beigey gray, kind of really pretty yarn. So this is batch number 9. I've been looking at this yarn like since batch number 1. And I'd wanted to buy it and I kind of never did. And then someone had mentioned online, like this wasn't available online anymore. And that like batch 9 was the last batch. And I was like, oh bum, well I never got some, like just have FOMO for forever. Then they had some at the Tarndie booth at Bendigo. And so I bought the 4 skeins that I needed. I was super happy, get to live my dream. So the pattern that I will insert a picture because it's at a really not helpful stage. It's a really pretty vest pattern. It's called Carmen or Cayman. I think Carmen would be how I say it. No, that's not even the name. Shoot. Is it Lemon? Laemin? It's on the screen by Renata Cam. Not Renata, Renata Cam. Read the screen, don't listen to my face. It's a really cool, just like textured vest pattern that I have cast on. So you knit it from the bottom up and it's a vest. So it's just knit flat. So it's like one piece. And then eventually you divide for the arms. And it's really nice. It's knitting up so pretty. So this is the textured pattern. It's like kind of like a double moss stitch or something. There is beautiful I-cord edging that you knit as you go. And it is like perfection. Like look at that edge. It's just like seamless. It's really nice. And then the other really cute detail is in the center back. There is this really cute little lace pattern. And as you can see, it's just started, but it's almost like these little like flowers or like Celtic crosses. It's not coming up very well on camera because I'm holding it badly. There we go. But yeah, a super adorable little lace panel that's just kind of will sit just like in your like lower back, kind of where, what in my head, our school uniform had this stupid little like tie at the back of our blouses that really we just used, like you would hang on to the back of your friend's blouse and they would walk if you couldn't be bothered to think about where you were going, and often ripped because kids are rat bags. So it kind of sits at that point in your back, and I think that it does kind of decrease in stitches a little bit, so it just gives a little bit of shaping in the lower back. But most of the vest is just this gorgeous textured pattern, and the yarn and the pattern are just working so beautifully together. I did go up 1 needle size because I did my gauge swatch on the wrong size needle, but it happened to be basically on gauge. I actually did a gauge swatch, which is like pretty big deal. But I did it with the wrong size needle and I ended up getting gauge. So like it's a good thing that I did it. It's really very professional around here, really selling myself and my talents. But yeah, I'm having so much fun. Last night I worked on this for like longer than I had anticipated working on it, because it was just like so fun and so beautiful, and seeing this little lace panel in the back come together is just so nice. So yeah, Eleanor's really happy. It's a really fun pattern. Highly recommend you checking it out. And I'm just can't get over how like neat these like I-cord edge is. Like, I don't know if it's the way it's written in the pattern, but it's just an I-cord. It's not even written in like a special way. Maybe it's just at the gauge I'm knitting at, and with the yarn, it's just like seamless. Stunning. So beautiful. Maybe it's just because I'm really good at knitting, but it's really nice. Yeah, it's really lovely. And this yarn is so like natural and beautiful. It's been a long time since I've worked with a yarn that like you're regularly pulling the little bits of grass out, and you just think of like the happy little sheep and happy alpacas, and the like nice life that they have, and smells really sheepy. I always just got myself really emotional about the life of these sheep. Good grief. I have one more work in progress to share with you before I have a full on breakdown on camera, that I did not plan on casting on. I hadn't even thought about this because this pattern came out literally like 3 days ago, and the designer hadn't even really teased it very much. But then I saw it and I thought I was going to make it with some other yarn, like one other colorway that I had, but I would have to order more yarn. And then I thought, wait, I still have tons of leftovers from my Metamorphic Jumper that I was just going to turn into like 4 hats, but it would work perfectly for this pattern. So I've just got a little bit, it's just a little bit of a shawl, but it looks really good and I'm really thrilled. And yeah, so this is it so far. How cool does that look? So this pattern is called the Ziggy, I think it's the Ziggy Triangle. It's by Layla Raven. She's back. She's designed a new pattern. It's so exciting. Sorry, the couch keeps making noises. I keep kicking it. Makes it sound like it's alive, like in that episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch where they get talking furniture. I promise my couch doesn't talk. But yes, Layla designed Ziggy Triangle, and she designed it to use spin cycle as well. So spin cycle dyed in the wool alongside a neutral yarn, and kind of had designed the pattern to kind of use up basically a whole 50-gram little skein of the spin cycle yarn. And this is not spin cycle. This is the same 2 colorways that this jumper is made out of. But I looked at how much I had, and this is, yeah, as a heavier weight yarn. But I weighed how much I have and looked at the yardage. I was like, I can make it work. And the way the pattern's written, you can kind of do more or fewer pattern repeats anyway. So I'll just see how I go. But so I went up, got the pattern. I did go up a few needle sizes. So I'm knitting this on a 5mm needle. I was going to do a 4.5, but my one 4.5 needle is in that blanket. And I feel like I do have another one, but I can't find it. So I once again made my needle decision based on availability. And I just cast this on yesterday, and already I think it looks amazing. It's a super straightforward, simple pattern motif, and I think it looks really cool. And like, it's not that often that I'm quite this impulsive with a cast on, that I like see the pattern online, know that I have yarn, and just get it like straight away. But I just think it's like really cool and pretty. I don't know if I'll keep this shawl for myself or if I'll give it to someone as a gift at Christmas time. Only time will tell. I think it might be a gift. It's just feeling like I'm really enjoying working on it, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be mine. But yeah, so you can kind of see how the yarn color change is happening as it goes along. And yeah, I really recommend this pattern. It's super fun and super cute, and it's just like really exciting to see Layla design again. I'm really happy for her. Yeah, that's everything I'm working on. What are you working on? If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's getting colder, allegedly. Though aren't you all having a heat wave right now or something? I don't know. Are you getting excited to knit jumpers? If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, are you a psychopath who is planning on which bulky knit you're going to be knitting during the summer, which I seem to do every year? Actually, I think I know which one it's going to be because I'm looking at the yarn right now. Yeah, jump down in the comments, jump down over on Instagram. Tell me what you're working on, what you're excited for. My house is currently like a bit chaotic because I've got I last night decided to put up some Halloween decorations because I love Halloween, and why not start now? You only get a couple of months a year when you can get away with having skeletons hanging all over your house without it being a cause for concern. So thought I'd make the most of it. But I also have a giant bunch of daffodils on my table, which is, I feel like, a pretty apt representation of what seasonality in Australia. But jump down in the comments, jump on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you're working on. I'd love to see what you're working on, and just hear how you're doing. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope I've been able to provide you with a little bit of company while you're doing some craft or whatever else people do. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to do craft to watch this podcast. If you want to watch it while, I don't know, doing something else, you're allowed. I give you permission. But thank you so much for sharing this time with me, and I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll chat to you again soon. Bye, guys.